as Rebecca said, my name is Rob Bennett. My wife Tracy and I have lived in Skaneateles. This month it will be 20 years, and Skaneateles is where we decided to relocate because we knew that this is just a perfect place to raise a family. My wife Tracy and I have spent time here our entire lives, and when our daughter turned 1, we were living down in New York City. We knew we wanted to get away, and Skaneateles was the perfect spot for us to come. We have 3 kids. My daughter Aiden is 21, and she is a junior at Fairfield University in Connecticut. I've got my son Ashton, who's a junior in the high school, and my son Torin, who is in 8th grade. Skaneateles School District is the only school district that we have known, my kids, and especially my wife and I, bleed blue and gold, and are extremely active and supportive in as many things as we can get involved with. I practiced law for more than 15 years, and that was enough for me, and started a second career. I've got a small shop in Auburn, the Backyard Sports Network. We do team apparel, personalized apparel, embroidery, screen print, all of those types of things. Very active with a lot of different local teams and organizations in the area. So we're here, live at 108 Orchard Road in the Village, one of the first houses built in Parkside. And again, so proud of this town, so proud of this community and everything that it stands for. As I mentioned, with my kids in school, first and foremost, need to say Happy Teachers Day to all of our teachers in the Skaneateles School District. And you know, that's one of the reasons why I'm running for the board, is because we've got such incredible teachers here in Skaneateles. And you know, as my daughter's been all the way through from Waterman to State Street to middle school, my son has been through Waterman, State Street, middle school, and is now in the high school, and another son in the middle school. Just, you know, we'll never forget the first day and going in and meeting Kim Ward. And it was just the perfect opportunity and the perfect experience for your first child to be introduced to our school atmosphere and environment. Kim Ward was the absolute best. And all of my kids had Lori Mancini. She was absolutely fantastic. Moving into State Street, Heather Buff was just very instrumental with my kids, and provided especially my daughter with a little toughness that she needed to get into middle school and start kind of getting enhanced academics and more rigorous type study, and was just absolutely fantastic. Other great teachers that we had, Ellen Wolford, Mary Wortley in the middle school. Then moving into the middle school, just incredible teachers all the way through. Big thanks to Mitch Major and Julie Torrey, Laura Yusufer, Keith Lamphere, Jim Ryan, Rich Allen, especially Jessica Murphy in the arts department. I know I'm getting myself into trouble by mentioning names. I wish I could mention them all, but these are the teachers that have really touched all of us. You know, and then into the high school. And, you know, got to say that when the district brought in Dan Mulroy and the business classes into our district, it was a real game changer for my daughter. It really gave her some direction. And Dan was just a special guy as well. He was her volleyball coach, you know, made her a team captain, gave her the confidence, and then, you know, introduced her to DECA as well as the business classes, but the DECA program, and she competed in that. And, you know, she was very successful for 3 years. I think she was the first student from Skaneateles into the DECA Hall of Fame. And that really transitioned her into becoming a business major at Fairfield University, and just absolutely game changing. Another person that, you know, I'd like to talk about from an academic perspective just happens to be seated right here, and that's Gary Gerst. When Gary was the principal at the middle school, he really saw an opportunity to provide some advanced services for kids that had maybe a little bit higher of an aptitude. He called us up one day about my son Ashton and said, hey, I went to these classes, and we can offer online courses where the teachers are elsewhere, and provide computer programming classes, web design classes, and all types of things. I think Ashton would be ideal candidate for that program. And I got to tell you, it was absolutely game changing for him, as much of an impact that Dan Mulroy had with my daughter, Gary Gerst had with my son, and continuing when Gary left with Mike Caraccio, continuing that extra programming for these kids to get them extra things. Matt Slauson in the engineering department has been great. Dan Curzon in physics. And again, just want to say thank you to all of the great teachers of the Skaneateles School District. And, one of the reasons, again, why I'm running for the board is to maybe help the entire process and help do a little bit more to possibly get our teachers everything that they need, give them a little bit more of a voice, so they can continue to provide our kids with the greatest education possible. I've been told by several people that I am only running for the board because I am upset with how the administration and the board treated our football coach, our football coaches, and the kids of the football program. And I can tell you that as disappointed as I was with all of that, I can assure you that my entire objective in running for the Skaneateles School Board is try to bridge gaps, increase the policies and procedures, make sure that the policies and procedures are in place for handling issues like those and all issues. It was eye-opening seeing the procedures or lack of procedures that took place there, the discussions and the lack of discussions that took place with that. But that caused me to spend some time reaching out to other individuals and learning that, there are a lot of people who have a perceived lack of procedures, a lack of transparency, which is going on here. I don't want to dive into that, but my entire objective in running for the school board, and if I'm lucky enough to be elected, is to help with those issues and to help make those issues better. This isn't just a football issue. There are many issues that I believe could have been handled better, from the reopening plan here at the school district, the remote learning, the broadband issue, the spectator issue, right down to the administrator position that just got hired, and in fact, I believe is being voted on today. Again, I'm running for the board because I think we can do better with regards to transparency. We can do better communicating with the community. I think we can do a better job communicating with our kids, our incredible teachers, as I just mentioned, best teachers in the world as far as I'm concerned. And that's really what I'm trying to do. There's some great candidates that are running for the board, and, I just want everyone to know that if you are happy with how things have gone over the last year or so, I'm probably not your guy. But if you're looking for someone that wants to offer, new voice, offer some suggestions, collaboratively work with this group and the administration to get better, I think I've got the quality and the traits that will help to do that. My legal background, but I spent 20 years building strong relationships with community members here, spent a lot of times with kids and their parents on a number of different issues, and coaching. And I hope to bring all of that to the Skaneateles School District. I could not be more excited about the opportunity to be on the board and make a difference and help in any way that I can. And I hope that the people in Skaneateles agree and will vote for me for the Skaneateles School Board. Thank you for your time.
if we're supposed to applaud for you, Rob, or I mean, it's kind of an awkward silence here.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Nice job, Rob. High fives on the way down from the podium.
No touching.
Oh, yeah, I guess we can't do that. Hello, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of all the familiar faces for the past 3 years, in addition to probably the largest audience we've had in at least a year and a half. I would say that, I'm running for the board for another 3 years. I think the first 3 years we've seen all kinds of ups and downs, certainly some tough years that we've had. Personnel situations and other things. I think the next 3 years we set ourselves up for a lot of success. Certainly have the pieces there. I have 4 young kids in the district, or number 4 soon to be. I have my 3 other children in State Street, Waterman, and in the middle school. Little guy will be coming shortly thereafter. So I certainly have a vested interest in the district. I think most of you are familiar with me so far, not just from my time on the board, but being a member of the community and a lot of the volunteer positions that I've had, a lot of the conversations that I've had with many in this room, as well as many in the community. Whether we agree on particular topics or not, I'm always open. I always listen, and I think that I've been a reasonable voice on the board and ask the questions when they need to be asked. When you look at priorities, I think the number one priority for us as a district right now is to come back from COVID. That's not just an academic thing. That's a mental and social, emotional well-being. I think you'll hear some stories this evening, and we continue to see stories all across the news of some substantial issues that we have right now in all school districts, not just our own, and we sure as hell aren't immune to them in Skaneateles. I think from an academic perspective, we have a long ways to go to make up for that year that we missed. We look forward to learning what we did right and what we did wrong. I think Rob touched on some things that we probably would have done differently. I think that's the whole purpose of reflection. I mean, we all wish that we had perfect hindsight, but unfortunately that's not the case. But we're able to reflect on what we learned from that and do the best that we can to minimize things like that in the future. Communities and community involvement, that's something that went to the wayside quite a bit with COVID and the restrictions on gatherings and things of that nature. And you can only accomplish so much in a Zoom meeting that we're all accustomed to these days. So look forward to getting a lot of the committees back on track, getting community involvement. Another great thing about being in Skaneateles is we have wonderful people in the community, well-educated, very professional people that can help us substantially, and we look forward to leaning on the community to move forward. The other item, strategic plan. It's something we do have a strategic plan in place. It's something that we have a new superintendent. We have a new board. The existing community. It's a plan that we can all put into place together and use that as a guiding light. I think all too often we as a district and most other districts probably. It's easy to get off track when there's different fires that present themselves, and we quickly shift gears and address the fire of the day. But having a strategic plan that we all buy into, all commit to, gives us the ability to stay on track and veer as we need to, but have that guiding light and principles. Communication. I think that a part of the district will say that they get too many emails. A good part of the district will tell you that they don't get enough. I think most importantly is the fact that our taxpayer base is made up of a substantial percent of the population doesn't have students in the district. All those wonderful notices you get, if you enjoy them or not, are because you have students in the district typically, and you're on an email distribution list because of it. Those wonderful taxpayers that support this community do not receive many of those updates. So we look forward to figuring out a way to overcome that and reach out to those families. This year on ABF, we talked a lot about email distribution lists, getting the ability for these taxpayers to opt into these emails or the different types of emails or whatever it is that we can to get word to them. We worked with the library this year to leverage some of that. We can do more of that in the future. Forums, things of that nature, just to get more involvement, get the community to hear about what we're doing and not just at the budget time. Post-secondary focus, this is something that all of the stats that we track for the most part focus on how the kids are doing while they're in the district. I would argue that what our job is to do here is to set them up for success in the future, then whatever that definition of success is to each of those students, whether it's a trade school, a four-year school, BOCES, whatever it might be that's important to them. We have to figure out how to get them there, but then measure that level of success and do all that we can to shift while they're in school, while we have that opportunity to better prepare them for the future so that they can achieve the success that is important to them. One source of information, I think this is something you hear me say quite a bit, and that's the fact that in the society these days, I mean, we have, depending on what side of the aisle you are from a political perspective, tells you what channel you watch. But needless to say, you question the validity of a lot of that information. I think even in a small district like this, all too often the information we receive, whether it's Facebook, some other social media, or somebody's sister's, brother's, uncle's, mother's kid relayed some information to you, and that information ignites a fire, and we are quick to spread that to other people. And I think that we need to remind individuals to look at the district as a source of information, but not just one way. I mean, that communication is a two-way street. Pick up the phone. These teachers are wonderful. The administrators, the principals, the administrator, the district office, everybody's willing to talk to you. So pick up the phone and call if there's a concern, preferably before the issue arises. If it's something that you heard from your neighbor or whatever it might be, pick up the phone, ask for the background, come and meet with Eric, meet with the teachers, whatever you need to do. They're willing to communicate with you. So again, two-way street. We'll do the best that we can to improve as a district with communication, but we certainly rely on the community to reach out to us as well and provide us that information and give us the opportunity to provide a little background on decisions that are made, policies that are in place, and other things that are going on within the school. From a board perspective, I think another consideration that you make when you vote on a board candidate is the fact that you know, you're one of 7 people. You have to have the ability to compromise. You have to be a leader. You have to be able to listen and understand different viewpoints. There's no resume or requirements to be a board member outside of residency in the district and some other very minor things. So that's a good thing and arguably a bad thing sometimes, because a good thing because of the fact that we come from different walks of life. Everybody does something differently, and everybody has a different focus, and you can either be a loud voice and not be open to that, and we don't get very far, or you can take the time to listen and learn, educate on the fellow board members, understand where they're coming from, be compassionate for it, and then, you know, being a good board member means that you're spending the time, not just coming to a meeting unprepared and voting on whatever pulls up on the screen, but spending the time, not just to understand the agenda, but all the different committees that we're able to be on, speaking with the community, being out in the community, active in the community, speaking with people when the phone rings, you answer it, have a conversation, even those awkward ones when you know that you absolutely disagree potentially with whatever the matter is, but they call and they want to have a meeting. You know, you sit down and you have a meeting, because I've had countless meetings, even the football situation that Rob brought up, and they're all cordial. Everybody's cordial. Everybody's professional. Sometimes you agree to disagree, and that's okay. But part of being a good board member is the ability to be out in the community and have those conversations. So I encourage everyone, regardless of who's elected, to make sure that you're open to that and you know, take that opportunity. And I'll just leave it with, you know, I've been on the board for 3 years. I think that I've done a good job. I would say we get limited time here. The PTC and the SEF put on a forum for us to have a discussion. The recording is up on the website somewhere. I encourage everybody to look at that. You know, communicate with me, the rest of the potential board candidates. Ask your questions, and if nothing else, make an informed decision, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I feel like the draft. I'm on the clock. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Gaethie, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'd also like to reiterate an appreciation to teachers. I can think back on a number of teachers, and I think about them every day because they had an impact on my life. Rocky was one guy who had an impact on my life, and I think about him every morning. And he's still kicking 85, and he's climbing mountains. Their teachers are some of the most impactful people in our lives, and I really, truly appreciate them this week for their appreciation. And I know my kids have a number of them. I'm not going to list all of them like Rob did because there's a lot. But thank you very much, and we're all extremely grateful for their outstanding work. And I don't say that because people think, oh, he's just a football guy, and I do love football, but frankly, I'm passionate about lacrosse and skiing, and the boys are getting thumped right now at CBA, and I wish I was there to watch. But again, my name is Joe Gaethie, and I'd be honored to be your elected official on the Board of Education. I live here. I grew up here. I chose to move here with my wife, Diana, and raise my two kids, Alex, who is class of 21, Drew's class of 22. We chose that because this is a community. I grew up in this community. A number of people here grew up in the community, and they know what that means. Growing up in a community is different than a suburb. It's different than, downtown. This community is very special. And a couple of things that people think this community is special is the lake, the village. I think that the single biggest asset outside of the people watching, the people living across the street. How wonderful was it, by the way, pulling in here and seeing lacrosse, softball, baseball, and people cheering. That was awesome. We're coming back to life. But the single biggest asset is the school. And I think that the school needs to head and improve and not go down to number 3, but go up to number 2 and number 1. And I think we can make some improvements. And I feel I was thinking a lot about school board, and I waited until my kids are through the whole system because I wanted to understand the whole system. Everything was sugar plum fairies. Everything was great in elementary school and through middle school. But I wanted to get all the way through the system, which I am now, about a month away. Unbelievable. But with Alex graduating, and I wanted to understand everything from kindergarten through graduation to Mike Kell's point, post-graduation. And I think it's important that we have that understanding as we try to create guiding principles and policies, and as a board, take on some of those efforts with those communities committees that people have talked about. So a couple of the priorities that I would have, number one is accountability. And I think every well-run organization has to have accountability, and to have accountability, you have to have evaluations. And I said it last night, I think we need a third-party evaluating system for all the stakeholders, for parents to do an evaluation, for children, for staff. I think we need to take that evaluation, and I think we need to look at what our strengths and weaknesses are. And when we take those strengths and weaknesses, we need to have diversified committees that meet. We used a little bit of this COVID thing, and I know it was a pandemic. We all had to fight through it, by the way. All of us. I have businesses. I had to fight through it. Everybody in here had to fight through that. Whether you were in business, you were at home, you were in a school, we all had those issues, but they weren't an excuse. We got up in the morning and we accomplished what we had to accomplish. Not having committee meetings over the last year is not an accomplishment. That is just using it as an excuse, and we need to have committee meetings. We're on Zoom. We can do that every day. We could have done that all week. The wellness committee hasn't met. I'm on it, unless I've been kicked off. That very well could be. But anyways, accountability should be done by a third party. They should conduct surveys. They should come up with the surveys and get fact-based and provide the results to the community, and then create committees, a diverse group of committees to establish priorities. Transparency and communication, that is critical. Communication is one of the most important things that needs to happen. It needs to happen regularly. It needs to happen to every stakeholder, and it needs to happen with facts. And one of the things that we need to do is we need to develop how that occurs. How does the communication happen? Not just the text and not just the messaging system that comes up, but we need to develop and encourage active participation with all of the stakeholders, whether it's the staff, whether it's the students, whether it's the community members, and we need to figure out a way to get them in and encourage it. Transparency is something that I know it comes up every year, but it needs to be fixed. If it comes up every year, let's fix it. One of the things that was a little frustrating for me was the transparency related to the football situation, where we had easily over 70 letters and correspondence sent in, and they weren't recognized. For whatever reason, they weren't recognized. And unfortunately, we're in a litigation right now where the school is in contempt of court. And I find that somewhat frustrating because it's policies and procedures that we're in contempt of court over. And I agree with Rob, we need to be above all else, just the highest level of policies and procedures and with the law. Consistent academic excellence, especially considering what we're going to deal with. We're going to deal with my shot clock went away. I'm just kidding, Connor. I'm sorry. I thought I had to shoot. I was coming up to the 3-point line.
They can't see you. They can't see you.
They couldn't see.
So they're saying the camera's off.
They can hear it, they just can't see.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. They don't need to see me. But consistent academic experience, regardless of the delivery platform. And this year, we're going to have 2 forms of models, I believe, for anticipate that. I think there needs to be consistency across the board. I think we were very inconsistent this last year. I have spoken with elementary, middle school, high school. It was inconsistent from grade to grade, teacher to teacher within the grades. And we have to come up with a platform for that. And the board needs to help provide resources for the staff, whether it's professional learning or whatever, in order to make sure that we have that for our kids. And also the social emotional well-being of the students and the staff, so they can achieve their academic goals. It's got to be a major concern. We have to give them whatever they need to make up for their learning loss. And then finally, fiscal responsibility. I think with my background from business, I have a unique perspective for managing large projects. We've built $50, $60 million projects, construction projects. We have $50 million worth of project going on here. I think I bring a unique perspective for that. And I also understand on how balancing the budget and how maybe to reach out to the community for resources. And so we don't have to increase the budget. One of the things that would be, I think, excellent is increasing our job sharing program. No one's ever reached out to me about that. And I know we have a lot of BOCES members, and I have construction companies, development companies, but there's people in this community that are CEOs. We have awesome resources here. And I think we should reach out to that community and enhance the learning experience for the kids. So just in conclusion, I decided to wait until my kids were towards the end of their career here. I'm passionate about Skaneateles. I might not have graduated here, as some people have pointed out on Facebook, but I am a Laker. I rode the bus with Carrie. She'll tell, well, she might deny it. I was in the back of the bus. And it was a long bus ride. Let me tell you, that was a long one. But I am a Laker. I bleed Laker blue and gold. I do love it here. I love this community, and I'm coming to the school board because of that passion and because of the kids. So I hope that my experience and as a parent, as a community member, and as a business leader can entice you to vote for me and be your elected voice on the school board. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to keep this short and sweet because I think everybody has pretty much covered what I wanted to say. But my name is Carrie Brogan. I am an SCS 1986 Skaneateles grad. Born and raised here. My dad was a teacher here. I come from a family of 8. And I always say how much Skaneateles has changed. There was 8 of us. My dad was a school teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And we lived on the lake. Probably the taxes on our house on the lake is probably more than my parents paid for it at that point. So my husband, Tom, and I, we bought our house in Skaneateles the week we got married, and we've lived here ever since. I've lived here pretty much my whole life, and we have 3 daughters. We have Madeline, who graduated in 2017. She's currently at Boston University, and Riley is a freshman at Towson, and Bella is a sophomore here at Skaneateles. So I think what I see are the three biggest issues is kind of what everybody's covered, but bridging the gap. I think our students lost a lot this past year. Academically, our little ones, you know, I said last night, how do you learn to read? When you're still learning to read, how do you learn that when you're doing it through a Zoom? Our 8 through 12 kids went to school 2 days a week for, you know, what was it, 6-7 months, and you know, we're full Zoom all last spring, and you know, probably wasn't the best experience last spring on Zoom. Much greater improvements this fall, but still 2 days a week. There's nothing can beat being in front of a teacher. So we have more time to make up those gaps with our little learners. We don't have as much time with our older kids. So putting supports in place, you know, we don't exactly know where the gaps are yet, but I think we'll find that out now that we have them all in school. So making sure that we have the supports available to the students, programming in place. Assuring that we're doing, you know, fiscally responsible. It's been a tough year for people. I don't think we should assume that families didn't take a hit. I have a very good friend whose husband still isn't back to work. So, you know, we have to keep in mind that some of us, my husband and I, kept our jobs. We were very fortunate, but some people didn't. Always keeping that in mind. So mental health is probably, that's why I'm not going to kind of get into what everybody else said. I agree with strategic planning and pretty much everything everybody said, but mental health is my baby. I've worked at Jordan Over School District for 25 years as a school social worker. It's my passion, my wheelhouse. As Amanda said last night, you don't get into education if you don't love kids. My kids have gotten an unbelievable education here. We're very fortunate. We offer, you know, honors and AP classes. We have a huge number of electives. Our extracurricular activities are, you know, we probably offer much more than most schools. My hope is that there is something in there for every single student in this district, that every student finds something that makes them feel proud, that makes them feel a part of our district, and makes them feel as though they're included. So that's my passion. I think we have too many kids that fall through the cracks here. Sometimes, you know, we have the kids that, you know, we have the behaviors, they're on our radar. We have the good kids that we think are okay. We have the kids in the middle that we're losing. And I don't think we can assume that just because somebody is okay. I think kids come to school every day with a smile on their face and they're hurting inside. You know, we had a discussion tonight. Dan, thank you for saying it. But if we don't take care of mental health issues, nothing else matters. No learning's going to occur. You know, these kids are in trouble. One of our neighboring districts suffered an unbelievable tragedy today. You know, it can happen here and it will happen here. I deal with it every day. These kids are hurting. Anxiety is it's at a pandemic level. And I just think that's got to be our number one issue. We don't know where these kids are at yet. We're just getting them back. You know, a year of isolation, a year of not being able to do sports, a year of not being able to be with their friends. We struggled as adults, okay? They, you know, our brains are developed. Their brains aren't even developed yet enough to be able to handle this. So one of my passions too is that everybody feel is that they're a part of this community. Everybody feel that they're a part of the school. I shared last night that when my daughter Maddie was in middle school, she told me that she felt like she was invisible. And that's frankly why I ran for the board 6 years ago, because I didn't want anybody's child to ever feel that way again. Maddie's doing great, but it was a struggle. You know, she's fine now and she's going to knock it out of the park and do great things in this world. But I remember that feeling as a parent, and I don't want any parent to ever feel that way. I don't want any child to ever feel that way. Skaneateles is a great community, great community. It's a tough community. It's tough for these kids. So, you know, I want to be the voice of the community as well. I think one of the things I offer is I really try hard to see both sides of the story, or both sides of every situation. Even with the football situation, I didn't agree with some of it, but talking to people, I understood some of it. I don't have to win. I always say that to the board. I don't have to win. I just have to be heard. And I think that's a perspective, to Mike's point, being on the board. It's not always about winning. It's just your perspective and being heard. And we all add something to it. Everybody, no matter who's elected to the board, we're all going to bring perspective. And it's important that everybody, be heard, everybody be listened to. But when I say that, sometimes the loudest voices aren't always, not everybody agrees with that too. We have people that are intimidated. We have people that, don't want to say anything. And I feel like, for a living, my job is to advocate for people. So I think I do a good job of, whether I think it's right or not, I'll say something. Whether it's a tough discussion to have, I'll say something. Whether it's popular or not, I will say something. And I don't always have to agree with it, but I definitely understand where I sat in this audience before and felt frustrated, felt like I wasn't being heard. But then I realized that I can be heard. You just have to come to board meetings, speak up. Like what Mike said, contact the teachers, contact the principals. I think that's what we lack sometimes, including myself. I think one of the areas that I've grown in is instead of being angry and instead of this is my point, talk to people about it. Talk to people about it. Okay, I really believe that we're all in this together. We can only be successful if Eric's successful, if our teachers are successful, if our administrators are successful, then the school will be successful, then our kids will be successful. It's probably an area I've evolved on and grown on the most. When I started on the board 6 years ago, I thought, I'm here to represent the community and, my job is boom, boom, boom. And, I think I came to realize that, yes, it is to represent the community, but it's to support the school too. And, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. So 2 weeks from tonight, just go out and vote. I'd love to serve you again. I think it's kind of important to have a little history on the board other than Tom here, who's been forever. It's a rather new board. Sometimes it's important to know, just so you guys know, 3 years ago when we talked about this, but, I do think I bring something to the board, and I hope I have your vote. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I don't know. All right. Whew, tough being number 5. Hard act to follow. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who made time to be here tonight, and an immeasurable thank you to the board and the administration and the teachers for getting our youngest students back in school full-time this year. That was a game changer for me and for many, many families. So thank you to all of you who did that hard work. Our community continues to just positively overwhelm me with how involved and enthusiastic everyone is over this Board of Education election and budget vote. And they say it takes a village to raise a child. And I think we are so fortunate that we have that village full of people who want to help. Everyone wants to have a voice and everyone wants to have a positive impact. I'm coming to this election as a parent, an educator, and a community member. I grew up and graduated from Casanova, and my husband graduated from CBA. So we've both been long aware of the stellar reputation of the Skaneateles Lakers and for the fact that they educate the whole child here in Skaneateles. So after we started our family, we decided to move here a little over 6 years ago. Our son Tyler is in 3rd grade. Our daughter Allie is in 1st grade, and I have little Molly who will be joining Holy Trinity very soon. I previously mentioned that I am a teacher. I've been part of the Liverpool team of teachers for a little over 10 years now, and I've taught multiple grade levels, very diverse classrooms. I'm currently a 5th grade teacher in a co-taught classroom, and education is my whole entire world. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. I love school. I love students. I love the smell of freshly cleaned tile in September, right? It's everything that I do. In right, wrong, or indifferent, I do think that having worked in a different school district will offer me the ability to bring a different perspective. And, you know, this is how we do it here, and add a lens to decision making. During the 6 years that we've been able to call Skaneateles our home, I've had the pleasure of being the president of the Holy Trinity Board of Directors, as well as on the elementary PTC. And through these two roles, along with volunteering in my son's kindergarten classroom, I've been able to stay pretty closely connected with early education here in our district. My own son, Tyler, benefited from early intervention speech services through the district, and I can still remember the day he said his own name for the first time. So as a board member, I would strongly advocate for early intervention, bringing back that strong parent support group of parents of kids with IEPs, in academic and related intervention services through 5th grade. But as we know, as parents and teachers, kids don't always, they still struggle after 5th grade. And while we strive here to have competent, proficient readers by the time they leave State Street, I would love to see reading specialists in all of our K-12 buildings to really support the struggle that can be reading and is a lifelong impact. I would also like to see a truly responsive approach where we retool as necessary throughout the entire district, and a high level of flexibility and creativity when it takes a lot to admit when things aren't working and to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out and put in the hard work necessary to make the changes so that our students are getting what they need. And sometimes what that looks like in September looks very different come January when you get that mid-year data in, and you do have to go back to the drawing board. My philosophy of education is really just educating the whole child, meeting them where they are each year, and helping them grow. I advocate for a true boots on the ground approach where we have staff and teachers and counselors who are there the moment a child walks through our building and has eyes on that child. And it's a true, not my student, not your student approach, but our student, no matter where that student is in our building, whether on the athletic field, in the hallway, or in the classroom. I want to make sure that, while we have amazing teachers here, we also have a school culture from Waterman all the way through the high school that is so immersive and tangible that the students feel the support. And I've heard a lot of community feedback of, Waterman and State Street is all warm and fuzzy. And to a certain degree, you do have to scale back the warm and fuzzy as students grow up. But you want to make sure that those high school students know that they can walk in any classroom, they can turn any corner and reach out, and someone will be there and help them to feel safe, make sure that they feel that they're ready to take risks in their learning. Learning requires students to feel safe enough to take risks. And to put it bluntly, a child's never going to learn phonics or fractions or the causes of World War II if they're not mentally ready to access that information. And so I'm so excited to hear about what the district is doing with wellness and social emotional learning, and taking a topic that's really difficult to talk about and just meeting it head on and making sure that we are ready to support these kids with struggles that, as Carrie said, we don't even know what they're going to be yet. A school's success can be measured in many different ways, just like a student's success. And you can measure growth, you can measure achievement, but there's also a more tangible and less measurable feeling of success of how happy are the teachers? What kinds of things are they asking for? When are they turning to the PTC because they feel like they can't get that from the district? And how happy are the families? Do they feel welcome? One of the things I've done as a PTC is reach out to brand new families as they move into the district. And we've had overwhelming support from the elementary PTC of, thank you for coming to my house. Thank you for personally inviting me to the ice cream social in the fall. And we also need to make sure that the community feels heard, and not only heard, but responded to, and that their perception of the board and the district is positive, and the community is feeling overall satisfied with the direction of our greatest asset. I also believe that transparency is key to a board success, but so too is confidentiality. And as a board member, I will do my best to toe that line and really recognize that, yes, our stakeholders need to know what is going on and that their voices are heard and what decisions are up at the next board meeting agenda. But they also need to know that school personnel and teachers and board members are privy to deeply private and personal information that cannot always be shared. And I want to be a board member that a parent can come to and share something deeply private and personal about their family or struggles with their student, and know that that will be kept confidential, but will also be addressed. And a true professional learning community takes years to develop, but I am committed to building trusting relationships. And my goal is to really work with current administration and with the team members of the board to make sure that we are harnessing all of the natural talent of our teachers as we move forward, because it all comes down on so many days to the teachers and the students and the relationships in those classrooms. So to that end, I think we have 5 fantastic candidates who I would feel comfortable knowing whoever takes these 3 seats, we are going to be brought into the future here at Skaneateles with a well thought out plan that's going to address all of the needs and concerns. And I'll leave you with, in my building I work in, we have a saying, all means all. All students, all families, all teachers, all stakeholders, all means all. So I respectfully ask for your vote and the opportunity to serve our community. Thank you so much for your time.